good morning or evening, afternoon. I don't know what it is. Just good something. I just want to say thanks for everybody continuing to download the show. You know, through this hurricane that we went through, even though we weren't putting out episodes, you guys were still just downloading and like listening and stuff. And that's crazy. And I just wanted to say that we appreciate it. And we're sorry we didn't put more content out during this whole thing. Looking back at it, we probably should have recorded an episode or two. That way we could just throw some stuff out. But I mean, even if we did that, there was a good amount of time, which you guys are going to find out, we didn't have access to power or internet or anything like that. So, patreon.com. If you guys do enjoy the show, please go to patreon.com/The Bob and Katie Show and become a patron, be a part of our community, and help the show grow. This thing really does, it helps, and it makes us feel great when you guys become a part of it, and it just gives us the opportunity to do more things to bring entertainment to you. So make sure you do it. There's a lot of different episodes that you can get as soon as you become a member. I want to say there's like 15, 16 so far, extra bonus material that you get when you become a patron. So go check it out. All right. I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you or hearing you next. Here's some podcast. You know what? Just enjoy it.
Suck it, Floodwater. We made it.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bob and Katie Show.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Bob. And we made it. We survived. We're still here. The house is good. But boy, oh boy.
That hussy Flo tried to take us out.
Do we have some stories? So we haven't put an episode out in almost a month.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to do some overtime stuff. We crank out some more real fast. So we're going to put out 15 episodes in the next 3 days.
Stop.
Be ready, guys. It's coming.
Stop. That's not happening.
No, it's not. So Hurricane Florence, she ripped into the coast and tore us apart.
Not literally. I mean, the coast, yes, not us personally.
Yes, we are in 18 pieces at the podcast table.
Our house is fine.
Yeah,
we're fine. We got extremely lucky and blessed.
We did.
We felt like refugees for about a week, but I feel like we can't complain because all around us, it's so bad.
Yeah. And it's still bad.
Yeah. Even 2 weeks later.
Yeah, there's still people right now that are in the process of losing their house because water is still rising. And it's been, 2 weeks since the hurricane was here?
Yeah.
So where do we start? The day before? We had a hard time deciding where we were going to go, what we were going to do, because our house is 2 miles away from the coast. And everybody was talking about how it was just going to have this 30-foot surge and everything was going to be underwater. And that kind of...
We're like, the surge can go 30 miles inland and stuff like that. And we're like, well, we're only 2 miles from the ocean. And we felt pretty confident. I mean, our house, it is new.
Yep.
It was new whenever we just moved in here a year and a half ago. So we're like, it should be safe.
But we have 2 4-year-olds inside of it just ripping it apart from the inside.
Right. But we were concerned about how close to the water we were. So flooding was a concern. Not so much wind. In our yard, we have 1 crepe myrtle tree in our yard, and it's just a baby. We have some shrubs. Mm-hmm. That's all we have in our yard. The playhouses and stuff like that we threw in the garage. Other than that, there was really no danger in our yard. We felt like our house was safe. But
we just didn't want to drown. So we made a decision to go to your parents' house.
Yeah, we were going to go stay with one of our sets of parents.
Yeah.
And our parents live
pretty close to each other.
Just a few miles, what we think, less than 5 miles?
Yeah, about 5.
Apart?
Yeah.
Yeah, they live really close. And so our thoughts was, if we stay with one or the other, we're going to be with the majority of our family. Not everybody, but the majority. And we'll be really close together. If anything happens, at least we're together. So
we made the decision. And the house that we stayed at was probably about 30 miles from the coast.
Yeah.
So we made, we went 28.
Or maybe even a little less, but.
Roughly 25 to 28 miles further inland than if we had stayed at our house. And that's the decision we made. And boy, oh boy, was that the wrong decision. It backfired on us pretty drastically. Do you not agree with that?
Oh, no. I do.
So
I just don't even know. We stayed with my family.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You know what was scary? What was truly scary was I might not have been the most angry person at times. And that's crazy. Cause I mean, you take a bunch of people, right? And you put them in a house and you cut the power off. And then like the cell phone tower went down. So we didn't have any data, no phones. We couldn't reach the outside world. It was hot.
At one point we were flooded in, like within just a few mile radius. We couldn't get out there was no way to get out.
Yeah. There was a good 4 to 5 days we were off the grid and couldn't get
And
help.
most people in our area didn't lose cell service. Most people in our area didn't lose cell phone service. It was AT&T.
Yeah.
Their tower went down.
Verizon had a lot of issues, but it wasn't as bad as AT&T.
So yeah, we were like cut off.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get to our house. Finally, after a few days, we were able to try to come back to our house. And because of all the road flooding, we were flooded away from our house.
Yeah, we couldn't do it. So we were stranded in Leland. And it was so weird. Like we would get in the Jeep and go out.
Yeah, my brother.
And it wasn't the same place.
My brother and his family evacuated, and he has a Jeep, and it's like, what's the proper term? It sits up high.
Raised?
Whatever.
I don't know.
Anyway, it sits up high. So he left his Jeep there just in case. He left his generator. Thank God. So we did have a generator. So we took his Jeep out because it's a lot higher when you're talking about going through floodwaters than our car.
Leland ran out of gas, ice. There were no stores open. And after about 3 or 4 days of that, people started to get antsy.
Like this whole experience, you and I both, we have grown up in this area, southeastern North Carolina. We've been through many, many hurricanes in our life, and I've never really been scared. Mm-hmm. We never evacuated. We always stayed at my parents' house. I mean, growing up, obviously. But, I felt like the house was safe. It just sucked having to be without power and whatnot. But this hurricane was completely different. Was not our first hurricane as parents. Reagan and Riley went through Hurricane Matthew with us 2 years ago. But it was a lot of water.
Yeah.
It was once again, one of those hurricanes where our personal impact wasn't that much. It was just inconvenient going without power. There was some flooded roads and stuff. It was just an inconvenience. This storm was so different. Like, this time was the first time I've ever left my home in fear of I have to leave because it's unsafe and it might not be here when I get back.
Yeah.
Like the thought of...
Because this hurricane was coming... At first, this hurricane was coming in, and it was going to be the biggest hurricane that's hit this place in a long time. And we just got lucky that, like, right before it made landfall, it just dropped. I mean, like, it was coming in for a while at a Category 4, possibly a 5, and was going to just... If that hurricane would have sat on top of us the way that it did, being a hurricane, like a Category 4...
I can't even think of...
We wouldn't have made it.
I can't even fathom... Because seeing what we've seen, yeah, it was a Category 1 when it hit us. I've been through so many ones that you're like, man, I've seen thunderstorms worse than this. Mm-hmm. And so you think Category 1, no, this was unlike anything else. It stuck around for 4 days.
That's what hurt it. Like the hurricane itself, when it made landfall, we slept through most of it. Like it wasn't that bad. You know what? I take that back. There was one part where I got scared. In the middle, it was like 4:30 in the morning, and we heard a tree snap. And
we were
it was
up
big.
It just so happened that you and I were both up with the baby. And my sister was awake too, because I think Reese had woke her up or something. Anyway, me, you, my sister, we were all awake, and we were up with Reese. And we were trying to get him laid back down, and we all heard it. That snap.
Yeah.
And it was so loud that I knew it was close, really close to the house. And I knew that it was really big. And all I could do was just brace and wait to see it
If it came through the house.
it was going to hit the house. Scariest, like, couple seconds of my life.
Now, when I say the hurricane wasn't that scary, we were in the middle of it, and it was easy enough that I grabbed a flashlight and went outside.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't scared to go outside.
We sat on the front porch and just watched the wind blow the trees.
So I got my flashlight, and I'm going to go outside. I'm going to make sure the tree didn't go through our car, whatever. And Carrie, your sister, follows me outside. And we're on the front porch, and I shine the light over, and that tree is within 5 feet of our house.
It's right
Yeah.
beside the house.
And it fell in the only direction possible that it wouldn't have caused havoc.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the way the wind was blowing, the tree should have fallen.
It should have fallen right on top of the
The wind
house.
was blowing that way. We had just been out there earlier watching the wind blow. I know the direction that the wind was blowing the trees,
Mm-hmm.
and that tree did not fall in the direction that the wind was blowing. And it would have fallen on the house, and it would have fallen on the living room for sure, where Reagan and Riley were sleeping. And so it was just a super scary thought. Like some of these feelings I've never experienced in all my life. Like leaving our house and then, just being thankful that a tree didn't fall on my children. I've never had to worry about that. I had to worry about lots of other things, but never have I had to go, oh my God, thank God that tree didn't fall and kill my kids.
Now, this next part you don't know about. Carrie and I were on the porch, and we're looking at this tree. And like you said, there's a lot of emotion going into it because this tree is gigantic, right?
Yeah, huge pine
tree. And when
tree.
you look at it, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Like, this could have been so bad. And then I'm shining the light on the other trees. I've got like a pretty powerful flashlight, and I'm spotlighting all over the yard. And we're looking up, and Carrie's right beside me, and we're looking up at this huge tree, and it makes this loud crack noise. And Carrie and I just about fumbled over each other trying to get back in the house because it scared the crap out of us.
Yeah, I know. After that happened, you and I, we got the baby back to bed, and I think for about half an hour, I just laid there in bed trying to go back to sleep, but hearing just snaps of the trees all around us.
It was definitely something else. I didn't get nervous until we started running low on gas, food. You know what I mean? Like
we couldn't get out.
Yeah, we couldn't get out. And we're like,
You definitely go into survival mode.
Oh yeah. And then your mom, dad, and sister all smoke, and they ran out of cigarettes. So
Not a good situation.
So things started getting testy.
Yeah.
We were like,
Plus, there were 5 kids in the house.
Yeah.
Our 3 kids. So you have the 2 4-year-olds, the 15-month-old. Then my sister has 2 kids, Mason, who is 7, and Jackson, who is 7 weeks younger than Reese. So there's 2 babies that are big enough to get into everything. And then there's 3 other kids who are going, I'm bored. I'm hungry. She hit me. He hit me first. I can't see anything. I need to poop.
And it's relentless.
Mommy,
and
why
nonstop.
won't the TV work? When can we go home? And that one broke my heart. After a few days, they started asking, Mommy, when can we go home? And at that point, we had tried to come home and we couldn't get home because of the flooding.
Right.
And they just kept asking and trying to explain it to 4-year-olds about flooded roads and it's not safe. It was scary. So like I sat down, we were tucking them into bed one night and they're like, when can we go home? And it's just, my heart is just like crushed. These kids, as I started asking them, I was like, well, what do you miss about our house? And they were like, my bed. Like they're 4.
Yeah.
I thought they would say their toys, but they were like, I miss my bed and I miss my room. And it was really eye-opening that that's where their minds are. Because as a parent going through this, you're like, got to make sure my family's safe. Try to make sure I'm prepared for every situation. Try to make sure our home is secure as possible. You know, things like that. But, we don't really take into account how it affects 4-year-olds. Because they don't understand fully. I mean, we started talking to them days before the storm hit. And so, like, they knew that the TV wasn't going to work. So we were, like, prepared.
Now, I mean, like, given all of that, I think the kids didn't do bad.
No, they did
given
really
the
well.
situation.
Because, we prepared them. They would just ask questions like, well, when will the TV work again?
Yeah. And we don't know these answers.
And I'm like, I don't know. And once it starts going on almost a week,
yeah.
you're like, I don't know. And like I think they started to feel like they were never going to get to watch TV ever again.
I was starting to feel that way.
Oh my gosh.
So the food's running low. Gasoline's running low. You know, there's no ice. At this point, we're drinking room temperature drinks. I mean, like, it's still not bad. There's people that live on a daily basis worse than what we're having to do right now. But I mean, like, it's starting to get concerning. You know what I mean? And then you, myself, and your dad decide that we're going to have to leave. We're going to have to venture out. We're going to have to figure it out. So we get the Jeep. We start making room in it, and then we're putting stuff in the back to weigh it down.
My dad, for anybody who does not know my dad's a good old country boy.
Yep.
He's like, flood water on the road, we can get through that.
Which is dangerous, extremely dangerous.
We get in the car, and we get to the part of the road where it's really flooded, and it's a good stretch.
Yeah,
it's not just a puddle in the road. There's a stretch probably at least 1/10 of a mile long. Mm-hmm. And the water isn't just sitting there.
It's moving.
It's rushing.
It's like you can see it moving.
It's like
by.
a waterfall, and you can see where it's going to eat the road out on one side. And we get to it, and we're about to start going through it. My dad's driving. We get up to it, and in my head, I'm going, this is what they mean when they say, turn around, don't drown, turn around, don't drown, turn around, don't drown.
Yep.
And we're going through this puddle, and I'm like, we should have turned around, don't drown, turn around, don't drown. And I was like, oh my God, I think it will put us in doubt. Are we going to make it through this?
And I'm looking out the window, and the water is up to the door. Like once again, the Jeep is in the air. Like it's lifted. Now the water's not on the door. It's like up to the bottom. You know what I mean? Like if we'd have been in a lower car, it'd have been inside with us.
Yeah, our car wouldn't have made it.
No. I mean, I think it would have made it. It would have just been really bad. We'd have messed things up in the motor. Like it would have been bad. So we get through it.
I don't think I breathed. I didn't breathe or blink until we got to the other side.
And now we're able to maneuver about the main part of Leland. But we're still cut off from everywhere else. You can't get into Wilmington. You can't get anywhere.
Yeah, there's still water on some spots in the road, just not as bad as that. But from where we were going, oh no, there was another really bad spot on 74, 76.
Yeah.
It's like you're driving down a highway. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. You're driving down the highway. You're talking like a 4-lane highway. Mm-hmm. And it looks like a lake.
Yeah.
Just
there's a lake.
Landed
Boom.
In the middle of the highway.
Like you could have taken a boat and backed it down the highway and dropped the boat off into the water.
Exactly.
I mean, like it was wild. So we find one gas station open.
Yes, in the whole town.
Whole town, and there's like lines and lines of cars. So we end up having to park the Jeep and walk up with gas cans.
They did a really smart thing, though. They had like
two
one on each side, lines for people who were filling up gas cans because that's what a lot of people were doing for generators.
So you weren't allowed to take a car to that pump.
So it's like these pumps are for cars and these pumps are for gas cans.
Yeah.
And everybody, as crowded as it was, everybody was polite and patient, so much more so than on a regular day.
Yeah.
Everybody has this look on their face like they're exhausted and they haven't slept and their kids have probably been driving them crazy from the lack of electricity and video games. You know, everybody's just like, but everybody's
crazy.
Being nice to each other.
It's so weird what you're saying right now. Listen to me. That is not the experience I had on the other side of the gas station.
Really?
Yeah, so I put you in line to get gas. Now, I went and got in the line up at the front because I was going to have to buy your family some cigarettes so we all didn't kill each other. Now, on the side where I'm at is where the cars are going. There were people cussing at each other. Some dude shoved another guy into the side of the wall. There was this girl behind me, and she was just, I don't even know who she was talking to. And she was just talking, rah, 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 and like mad and angry. And and I keep looking at you because like now I'm worried for you. Because I'm thinking that the same thing's happening on that end of the gas station.
No. Whenever I got in line with the gas cans, you helped me carry them up there because we have 4 gas cans. Uh-huh. And I sit them down by my feet, and there's like 3 people in line in front of me. Mm-hmm. There's somebody pumping, and then there's 2 other men. And it was really cool. Like,
that's insane.
The one guy, he had just one little small, tiny little gas can. Mm-hmm. And the other guy was telling him you have to either use a card at the pump or you have to go prepay. And I guess the guy had cash. And listen, he was at the front of the line. You know, he was like the second or third person back. And he was like, oh man. And the line to go prepay was so long.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they worked out, but I guess he was like, hey, if I just give you my money, can you pay for my gas?
Man, that's awesome.
And the other guy was like, yeah. And then I saw him. He goes up and he puts his card in. And before he pumps his own gas, he pumps the gas for that guy. And then he's like, he wouldn't take his money. He was like, no, man, don't worry about it. I got it. And it was just like so nice. And like they were talking and they talked to me about.
You know what the difference is? Everybody in your line was standing.
Yeah.
The people over where I was at was trying to maneuver cars. And their cars were getting in their ways and people were pulling up the pumps and not doing it in smart ways, blocking traffic. Yeah, I think that might be the difference. Like
you add in like
chaos of cars.
Yeah, it makes things complicated.
These two guys started
everybody
screaming
in my
at each
line
other and one of
was-
them shoved him into the wall on my side.
Oh my gosh. What were they screaming about?
The gas.
Wow.
One
yeah.
dude said he had a gun. He was like, I have the gun in the truck right now. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, what is happening? But I'm not getting out of line. I got to get these cigarettes. I don't even smoke. Let me tell you what, we used to smoke. When did we quit smoking?
I quit smoking. It's been over 8 years ago.
I bought a carton of cigarettes and it was $50. $50.
Oh yeah, we couldn't afford to smoke now. Jeez
That
Louise.
mess is out of control.
I remember because whenever we used to smoke, we both smoked and then we both quit. Mm-hmm. So after like the first week or so, we were like, where'd all this extra money come from? I mean, we lived on a pretty strict budget.
Yeah.
We were both working at the time, no kids, but we lived on a strict budget and, kind of was like, had everything worked out. We kind of barely made ends meet, but we did make a meet. And so we stopped smoking. We're like, we have all this extra money now.
Yeah. And it really made a difference, especially with your mom. Like, I think it wasn't too long after, like, cigarettes came back and we were back at the house.
was in a
Like,
better mood.
she came up, she gave me a hug. She's like, I just wanted you to know, like, I appreciate how helpful you've been and stuff. And I was like, this is just because I bought some cigarettes, ain't it? Now, I think day 5 or day 6, I'm not sure. It all kind of blurred together. I was like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get to work. Now, my company had told everybody, if you can't get to your store, you can get to a store because everybody's going to need help, And I knew that I couldn't get back to our house. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go.
What the heck is that noise?
I have no idea. You can't really hear it in the headphones. It'll be all right. I'm going to get to Wilmington and I'll try to work in one of the stores up there. Now, I haven't really told my boss anything because the cell phones don't work. So I was like, okay, well, if I can get to Wilmington to a store, I'll be able to communicate to everybody and we'll be good to go. Now, I typically don't talk about work on the podcast, but something happened and I'm going to talk about it, but I'm going to leave out names and all that good stuff. But I feel like the story is good enough to share. So I get into Wilmington. First thing that happens is cell phones service starts, working.
You can communicate with outside world.
And I
you don't feel like you're living in a cave.
Yeah. So I sent my my boss a message and I was like, hey, look, I'm getting into Wilmington. I'm going to go to, this store. Awesome. It's going to work out. And he sends me a message back and he's like, oh, cool. Glad to hear everything's okay. By the way, the store you're talking about going to, the CEO of the company's there because,
Oh, by the way,
things are chaos.
Yeah.
And he wanted to show support. Now, I work for a very large company. You don't see the CEO too often. It doesn't happen a lot, And so I'm like, oh, great. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go in. I'm going to offer help. I'm not even going to do my normal job. Probably. I'm just going to do whatever they want. No big deal. What are the chances that I'll even run into him? I don't know what time of day he's going to be there. I don't know when he's leaving. It doesn't matter. So I pull up to the building, I get out of the car, and I'm wearing camouflage shorts, a Punisher t-shirt, and I have a mohawk now. And I hadn't taken a real bath or shower in like 6 days. I've got a lot of deodorant on. My hair looks... There's nothing you can do with a mohawk after having not washed it in like 4 or 5 days. It just looks bad. My beard is like gnarly, out of control. I look like a homeless person.
But so did a lot of other people.
But so did a lot of the people. I was like, whatever, I'm going to get in here. I'm going to help. And where I work, we supply things that the community needs to start rebuilding their houses. So, I mean, like, it's very important to have these buildings open. I walk in the front door and the CEO is standing right there. And like, my thought was, okay, I'm going to try to just like walk off to the
Run
right
away.
and get away.
The fight or flight kicked in. You chose flight.
I mean, like, I don't want to meet him in the condition that I'm
But
in.
see, that's the way of the world. Like if I work really hard and clean our house and everything is neat and tidy and clean and smelling nice, don't nobody come over. But let there be a mess in every room. You know, I just changed a poopy diaper, cooked something that smells awful so the house stinks. That's when people drop by.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. And like, you know, with kids, you put on a brand new cute outfit on them. That's the one they're going to get dirty. You put the old raggedy play clothes on them. It's got stains and stuff. They don't get those dirty.
No.
So it's like the same concept. It's like an unwritten law.
Well, I start to take a few steps forward, and the market manager who knows me makes eye contact with me. And it's that, like, you know, hey, come here type of, you know what I'm saying.
Hey, you, I got somebody for you to meet.
I know. So I'm like, oh, here we go. And I walk up and I was like, hey, you know, and I immediately just start apologizing for the way that I look. I was like, I'm really sorry. I just got out. And I was like, literally, this is the first time I've been able to leave the house and I came to work. Like, I smell bad. I look like a homeless person. I'm really sorry. And he introduces me to the CEO, and this guy is amazing. Super down to earth. You know, it's cool. Then the VP, which is under him, tries to give me a hug.
Ew.
And like, she put her like hands up, you know, and I twisted sideways and grabbed the hand with my other hand and shook it. Like, no, sorry. This isn't happening. Because I'm gross, you know? And now I'm like, okay, whatever. I've shook hands. Let me get to it. Let me get away from this situation and go load a truck or stock something or carry plywood or, you know, let's do something like that. Let's do something where it's okay to be dirty.
Let's go do the job I'm dressed for.
Right. And, nope, not my luck. That's not what's happening. So the market director goes, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody real quick. And he takes me over to this guy, and this guy's name is Bob. And it turns out Bob's job, not me, but this other Bob I'm just meeting, is to follow around the CEO and make sure nobody, you know, jumps on him.
It's his bodyguard.
Yes, because the CEO makes crap tons of money, and he's an important person. And the market manager goes, you're going to hang out with him and sort of help this whole situation. So now I'm like, oh, great. So now I look homeless, and my job is to help protect the CEO of a company.
Maybe
like,
that would work to your advantage, though.
Maybe. So then I start talking to the dude, you know, and it turns out he's like a former, what is it called? The people that protect the president.
The Secret Service?
Yeah, he used to work for the Secret Service for like years and years and
Really?
years. So now
Did you ask him if he ever killed anybody?
I did.
Did you?
I did.
What did he say?
He said he wasn't allowed to tell me anything.
Do you think that means yes?
I don't know. Because I feel like if it would have been no, he'd have been like, no, you know.
Or maybe he just wanted you to think it was yes.
So I asked him a question that I thought was a good question. And looking back on it, I'm like, what a stupid question.
What'd you ask him?
I said, so is there stuff that happened that you can't tell me about? And he goes, yes. And I went, oh.
Like,
but you can't tell me about it?
at this position or his former position?
His former position, like with the Secret Service.
Well, duh.
I know, but like I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, oh, and then like I was gonna like in my mind I was like, oh, he's gonna tell me that and he's gonna tell me something juicy. And then I was like, wait, I don't know this guy. And I look like a homeless person. He's not telling me anything.
Like, on what grounds would he have to tell you anything?
But no, he was a really cool guy. He's a really cool guy.
He's probably like, I wish he would stop asking me questions.
Yeah, it was a fun experience though, you know, and it was, this whole thing has been eye-opening. Like this whole situation. Well, anyways, I go home. So I go to work, I do that kind of stuff, you know, I do some other things and I go home. And by home, I mean back to the house in Leland where we're stuck. Now, I come home and everybody's upset. some family stuff happened that we're not going to get into here, but we made the choice. Hey, let's go ahead and do what we got to do to get back home. It's time. We've been here too long. We need to get out of here. We have to go home. Now, this is like what, 6 p.m.?
Yeah.
Right around 6:30. And I told you, I was like, this is what we're going to do. If we have to circle states to get home, that's what we're going to do. And if we get to a point where we get stuck, you know what? We'll find a hotel somewhere. Well, we can't be here anymore. Like, we have to go. It's been too long. It's, people are angry. There's no power. It's like, we have to do something. We have to get the kids in a better place. We got to go. We got to do something. It's just it's a stressful environment, and we needed to be out of it.
When we found out that we had power at our house too.
Oh yeah, because once I got to work, we could just
get home. Yeah, shout out to our neighbor Stacy.
Yes,
Stacy and I. The day we packed up and left our house, we were getting in the car, pulling out of our driveway, and I looked at you and I said, I really wish that there was someone in our neighborhood that we knew that we could contact, if they were staying, where we could be like, hey, is our house okay? But we don't know anybody, we, speak sometimes to the neighbor across the street and wave hello to some other people. But I don't know people's names, and I especially don't have their phone numbers and stuff. I don't go outside.
No.
And it just so happened that one of the days we were able to get out and get cell phone service for a little bit, I checked Facebook, and it's crazy.
And because that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you're like, oh, internet, Facebook.
No, well, honestly, that was the best. At the time, it was the best place for information.
Yeah, it was. It's sad to say.
On, roads that were flooded, roads that were passable, stores that were actually open. It was the best place for information. And it just so happened that our neighbor, Stacy, posted in one of these, groups. Well, Misfits and Monsters. We talk about them pretty frequently.
Yeah.
She posted in there, and she was like, hey, anybody in this neighborhood, this is where I'm at. We don't have power, but I think she said she had hot coffee. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's our neighborhood. Like, I read it a couple times just to make sure.
Yeah.
But she said the name of our neighborhood and described where it was at. And I was like, no freaking way. That's our neighbor. That's our neighborhood.
So you respond,
I was like,
what happened?
Up, Stacey?
Is my house still there? Do I have a house? Please, Stacey, tell me if I have a home.
I didn't even know what to say. I just wanted to be I just wanted to give her a hug and be like, you're in my neighborhood. And I didn't know what to say. So I was just like, what's up, Stacey? And I can't even remember what I said to her, but I was like, I live in this neighborhood too.
Now this was a few days, maybe 2 days before I was able to get to work. So at work, I was like, oh, I have an idea, because we have one of those thermostats on the first floor that there's an app on your phone.
You're at our house, not at your work. You said you were at work.
Yes. I'm circling back around. The day that I got out,
it made it
for the
sound
first
like you were
time.
saying at work you have this thermostat.
Oh no, I'm
That's
sorry.
what it sounded like.
Let me start over. Let me clarify.
House.
At our house, we have a thermostat, and it's a quote unquote smart thermostat where you can adjust the temperature and everything through your phone.
It connects to Wi-Fi. That's all.
Correct. So when I got out of the house for the first time in Leland, and I got into Wilmington, and at the store, I had the idea, I'll pull up the app. And if the power's on, I'll be able to see the temperature of the house and stuff.
The temperature.
And I opened the app, and I could see the temperature of the house, which meant it had power. Now, I'm living where there ain't no power. And then that was the day that I came home, and everybody was upset. And I was like, you know what? We got power in the house. Let's get the hell out of here and get home. And this is where the next story begins. Poor Tim.
No, you didn't let me finish talking about our neighbor.
Oh, okay. Talk about Stacy.
Yeah, she ended up coming and checking on our house.
Yeah. And I found out the information when I got to work and was able to look at the Facebook.
Yeah. So I don't know if she'll ever hear this, but our neighbor Stacy is awesome. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate somebody going, yeah, your house is still there. It's okay.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with it. I was so appreciative. I feel like I need to bake her a cake or something.
We'll do it. We'll make her a cake. So everybody remembers Tim. He's been on quite a few episodes. He makes a trip home. I think it's like a 2-hour trip, and gets back to his house, and he comes without his...
Because him and his family evacuated.
Yeah, they evacuated. So he decided to try to get back home, but he was going to make the trip without his wife and his kid, just in case it was too dangerous. Well, he gets home and he doesn't have power. And I'm texting him, and I told him, I was like, my house has power. I'm in Leland. I'm getting home. And I don't remember how it came up, but it was like, hey, you come over. He was going to come over to our house because we had power. So he left.
So when y'all had this conversation,
you and I were in Wilmington.
we had left my parents' house going, we don't know what we're going to do.
We had to find gas. That was the first thing.
We were like voyagers.
Yeah.
We were just wandering around going, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. Mm-hmm. Little to no cell phone service. Yeah. We didn't know what roads were passable.
We told the kids we were going on an adventure.
Yeah, because I didn't know what else to tell them.
Yeah.
We set out not knowing what the heck we were going to do. It was so scary.
We got gas. I told Tim, I was like, we're definitely going home. We're going to figure it out. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to leave my house and try to get to your house too. Now, if you look at it as a straight line for people who don't know the area that we're talking about. So imagine there's a straight line, right? And we're all the way to the left. That's where you and I are in Wilmington. And then we move to the right, and then there's Leland, and then move to the right again, and that's an area where Tim lives. And then you move to the right again, and that's where our house is. So like we were further away from our house than Tim was, and we both left at the same time. Well, Tim makes it out and gets almost to our house. So I asked him how he went, and he told, and he said, oh, well, I left my house and went down this road. So we were like, okay, well, we need to get to Tim's house and go that way because all the roads are closed and we got to figure out how to get home. Well, we get to Tim's road, and then all of a sudden there's cops set up at the end. And we pull up, and they're like, no, you can't go through this way. It's flooded out. And I told him, I was like, no, it's cool. There's a little bit of water on the road, but our buddy just went through here like, 15 minutes earlier?
Yeah.
I said, so we're going to go ahead and go for it. And we have the kids in the car. And he's like, look, I'm not going to stop you, but you don't need to do it. And I'm just sitting here like, no, I'd be fine. So he's like, okay. And we go, and we get to where the water is in the road, and it's rushing water. And
it's like, nope.
There's like a car in it.
Yeah, like floating. And I'm like, what the crap? So then we have to turn around and go back by the cops. So embarrassing.
Oh, yeah.
You know who's standing there like, told you so, idiot.
What was his name?
Chris, Officer Chris.
So he had a really good sense of humor about it. Super great guy.
Yeah,
Chris.
He was very nice. So when you were talking to Officer Chris, we just chit-chatted for a few minutes before we left. And when we go to pull off, he said something about, have a good night, brother.
Yeah.
And Riley.
Oh, I forgot about this. Yeah.
It blew Riley's mind.
Yeah.
And he said, Daddy, that's your brother?
And I was like, yes, I have a lot of them. They're all over the world.
And it was like a week later. We're here at home, and I don't know who he was talking to. I think it was my sister. Yeah, I think it was my sister. He said, Aunt Kelly, Daddy has a brother that is a policeman. Like, he legit, like, in Riley's mind, that police officer was like your long lost brother.
Yeah, yeah.
And he still to this day thinks you have a brother that's a cop.
Yep.
And you don't.
I do not.
But he thinks Officer Chris is your legit brother.
So there you go, Officer Chris. You're now Uncle Officer Chris. Yeah. So I call Tim, and I'm like, dude, your road is flooded. We can't get through. And he's like, what? Well, I'm going back. And he starts to go back. And by the time he gets back to his road on the other side, it's blocked off and he can't get to his house. Now he's stranded on the other side of the highway and has nowhere to go.
Yeah. So he's on this side of the flooding where our house is at.
Yeah. And we're on the other side of the flooding.
We're on the other side, and we each can't get across to get home.
And his house is in the middle of that.
Yeah. And
the water, this massive quantity of water that was sitting in land where it shouldn't be, apparently was just moving across the land. And we're trying to go road to road to road, and the water's beating us there.
Yeah.
So we end up going like 2 hours.
3 hours.
In this weird direction.
Out of the way in a big circle.
Yeah.
We went
to another state.
We went north and then west and came down, and instead of coming to our house from the north, our house was directly south of where we were at.
Yeah.
So instead of going north to south, we circled around and got from our house from the south going up north.
Yeah. We had to go into South Carolina and come back down.
Come back up.
Yeah. It took us 6.5 hours from the time we left your mom's house to get home. and a drive that should have taken 30 minutes.
Yeah. But we made it home.
But we did make it home.
And then the very next morning.
We got home at like, what, 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
By 8 o'clock that next morning,
the road was
open.
Clear.
And we could have gotten home in minutes. Totally worth it. It was a fun night. It was an adventure. Totally worth it. I just felt bad
Reagan
for Tim.
and Riley, I think, will definitely remember it for a long time. Our adventure. They're like, what kind of adventure is this? And we're like, oh, the family kind.
Yeah.
We didn't tell them Mommy and Daddy's just wandering around, not knowing where we're going.
Yeah, dangerous. Putting you kids in tremendous danger. Because
we're driving at night. There's flooded roads. Roads are washed out. There's debris and tree limbs down everywhere. Like, it's a family adventure. It's fine. Just sit back there and hush.
It was just, we made the decision that trying to get home was better for the family than to stay.
And we did it. We were successful. We got like right down the road.
It was like a sense of accomplishment.
We got right down the road from our house, and there's a bridge that's like less than 5 miles away. Small little bridge over like a little river, and it was flooded out. And we're like, this is not going to stop us.
No.
So we ended up having to go around and, but by the time we pulled up in our driveway, I was like, suck it, floodwater. We made it.
Is that going to be the title of our episode?
I guess.
Suck it, floodwater?
I was like, you can't beat me, Mother Nature.
I really legit thought you was about to cuss. Like, I was sitting here like, oh, it's happening. Katie's dropping the F-bomb. No. I would have just ended the podcast right then. Like, it would have stopped. As soon as you dropped the F-bomb, I'd have just cut off. I wouldn't have censored it or nothing. Because if you look at our podcast in, like, I don't know what it's called. If you go to it, it's marked as explicit. Like, I've always had our episodes marked as explicit because, we cuss. But I try to go out of my way to make sure, like, super crazy. I try not to put too many F-bombs in there, And in my mind, I was like, one day I might miss one, and I don't want to get in trouble because I missed editing one. You know what I mean? So, I wouldn't have blanked it out if you do. I'm excited about the thought of what I thought you were going to do, and that's not what you did. Sometimes you just got to go through your mind and make up your own stories, I guess. I don't know. I'm still playing it out right now. I can't stop talking. You know what? Find your laugh.
Find your happy.
This has been a Cabcast Studios production. For more episodes and information, visit cabcaststudios.com.